Today I'm reviewing Medusa Steel Coaster, the Rocky Mountain Construction hybrid coaster at Six Flags Mexico in Mexico City. This was the third RMC conversion, and many consider it one of their best. But do I share the same thoughts? Not quite. I think it's among the weakest RMC for reasons I'll get into. That being said, even a weak RMC is still better than 95% of coasters out there. This is still a great ride. But I need to begin by saying I don't think I've ridden Medusa in peak form. If you watch the POVs of Medusa when it originally opened, it is absolutely hauling through the course. It is one of the best paced coasters on the planet. However, the coaster received virtual reality in 2017. As a result, the park slowed the coaster down. I believe they changed the wheels. I understand why this was done from the VR perspective in 2017 to make the ride more comfortable. But when I visited the park in 2018, they were still using the slower configuration. When I returned in 2019, the ride had returned to the faster configuration, but there was a catch. I was dealing with a Franken-train. Medusa typically runs two 6-car trains. That's how it ran in its peak form. During my visit in 2019, the ride was running a single 5-car train comprised of parts from the red and orange trains together. If you look closely at this photo, you can clearly see these two different colored trains coming together. Now, I prefer the configuration in 2019 since it was running considerably faster than my rides in 2018, so I'm going to review the ride that I rode in 2019. However, I know the ride didn't quite carry the same momentum through the whole layout as it would with that 6th car, so keep that in mind when I describe my experience. The Medusa experience begins with a queue line, and this has to be one of my favorite queues in the world. You actually enter through a crooked house. Yes, the park adopted their old crooked house into a themed queue for Medusa, and it's really cool. Six Flags Mexico has some of the best themed queue lines in the world. The rest of the queue has no theming, but it offers some amazing views of Medusa. I also want to take some time to talk about the operational notes about this coaster. First, if the station is busy, the park will allow you to choose your row. If the station is empty, they assign seats front to back. I had no seat preference in 2018, but I did prefer the front in 2019 because you got more laterals on the turnarounds. But again, Medusa was missing the back car, so I don't know if the very back would truly be the best seat. Second, the throughput of Medusa is wildly variable. At the start of the day in 2019, the park had a whopping 10-man crew, so they were pumping out trains in less than 30 seconds. If you're familiar with any of the RMCs, you know these things are not the most efficient loaders, so it's incredible they could send trains out with the efficiency of a German fairground. But later that same day, they went down to only 2 operators checking restraints. The operators still moved way faster than the RMCs in the US, but a lot of people were walk ashamed, which slowed things down. But they were not denied riding for the reason you'd think. Usually people are booted because they're a bit too large for the restraint. But at Six Flags Mexico, the skinny people are being denied. What the operators do there is they slide their hand between your restraint and your leg. If they are able to slide their hand up your thigh, you are unable to ride. This is something that you would never be able to do at a US park by physically sliding your hand up someone's thigh, but that's what they did at Six Flags Mexico. So once you're locked into place, you ascend the 98-foot tall lift. But it feels considerably taller since Medusa is perched atop a hill. This leads into the original barrel roll drop. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a good vantage point to photograph this element, so I'm showing the same element on Twisted Timbers. The descent is a bit more gradual in Medusa, but it provides the same good hang time. That's followed by back-to-back turnarounds. Medusa has many turnarounds. These first 2 turnarounds deliver a nice pop of airtime as you enter, along with a wicked dose of laterals. But on the drop off the turnaround, you get some strong ejector airtime. After these turnarounds, you rise up into yet another turnaround. This one has sharper laterals, but weaker airtime. But unlike the other turnarounds, this one doesn't have a drop on the other end. No, it has a sweet 0G roll that drops you into the woods. This element has some great hang time, and it's extremely disorienting when you realize where you've ended up. Most of Medusa takes place in the ride's main superstructure, so you're completely thrown off guard when you find yourself in this wooded ravine. This ravine also contains a camelback with some strong and sustained floater airtime. It's rare to get this type of airtime on an RMC. Typically, RMCs are known for their ejector airtime. You then re-emerge from this ravine by cresting another sizable camelback. And like the first one, this is another dose of sustained floater airtime. You then snap around another turnaround. This one doesn't offer any airtime, but it may offer the ride's most abrupt laterals, so it's a worthy trade-off. That leads into the ride's final inversion, another drawn-out barrel roll with some great hang time. Medusa then flies around a high-speed turn before sharply climbing into the brake run, delivering riders one final pop of ejector airtime. So what do I rate Medusa? I'd give it a 9 out of 10. Medusa is a fast-paced coaster. It's always doing something. It's either giving you airtime, hang time, or laterals. However, this is among the weakest RMCs in my opinion. The only ones I place this above are Goliath and New Texas Giant. Again, this coaster is paced pretty well, but not quite as good as it was when it originally opened. I missed the strong ejector airtime you get on the other RMCs. Medusa has airtime, but you really only get the strong ejector airtime dropping off those first two turnarounds. So those are my thoughts on Medusa Steel Coaster. Again, this is a fantastic ride. I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially if you've ridden Medusa, and definitely mention when you rode it because that seems to greatly impact your ride experience. Stay tuned for more coaster reviews here at Canopy Coaster, and thanks for listening.